And good evening and welcome to the next edition of the Scott Nagy Show. Got a big show for you planned tonight. A lot of people here at Flyboys in Beaver Creek tonight. Appreciate you being here tonight. Not only we have the Scott Nagy Show talking about Wright State basketball, but also the good friends here in Greene County with Bridges of Hope, here to help others who are less fortunate here in Greene County. A lot of people here to support that. We really appreciate your generosity. Get more information at the table just to my left and to your right as we're watching out here at Flyboys in Beaver Creek. And if you're around the area, come on out. It's a near-packed house, but we could use you also here. Make your donations. Come on out and be with us tonight because we will not have another coaches show scheduled until after the new year. So we'll be here between now and 7 o'clock. Coach Nagy, Coach Brown joining me as we always do just about every Monday night throughout the basketball season. If you're wondering, we did have a women's coach show scheduled for tonight at 5:30, but the head coach is back, successful, more hardware. They won the Manhattan tournament over the weekend. The women's team has won 6 consecutive games. We'll be talking with Katrina Merriweather, the head coach, at around 6:30 during the Scott Nagy Show. Well, Coach, again, heartbreaking losses this week to Miami, also on the road at Kent State. It was a very, very difficult week for your team, not only on the court, but also off the court. We talked about that last week, and I thought Coach Brown had a good assessment at the end of the game. And again, I'll preface this by saying there are no moral victories, but your team went through a lot last week, not only physically draining, but mentally draining for your squad. And we were proud as broadcasters, and I agree with Jim, how well they fought and they played in that game at Kent State, considering all the things that they've experienced.
Yeah, I think both games, obviously coming off a very tragic thing that happened with Skylar's family, I think just emotionally was very draining for our team. And then the travel that was involved also going down to the wake and coming back on Thursday and then traveling Friday to Kent, and Skylar coming in basically Saturday morning. Is a very unusual week for sure, very unusual in terms of trying to get ready for games when other things are going on and the awkwardness of it for me as a coach. But yet there's still games, and it's so unfortunate and so draining for our players, to be in both of those games and lose them at the end.
You know what I was so impressed with is, we struggled somewhat in the first half like we have in several games, but I think we were down 6 or 7 at halftime. Maybe it was 9.
The Miami game?
No, the Kent State game.
Yeah, I think it was 7.
7, and the way they came out at the start of the second half, I was so impressed with that because, in the first half, we would make some runs and they would make a run, and there were several opportunities there for our kids just to say, hey, look, it isn't our day. But they didn't do that. They came out the second half, played with great energy. And I thought played very well.
I think we had, the first 13 possessions, they only scored 3 times. And so that allowed us to get the lead. But, at the end of the game, we couldn't get any stops.
Yeah, they scored the last 9 possessions. And, you look at your stats, Coach. I mean, you've committed almost 40 less fouls. You have more offensive rebounds than any of your teams. You've committed less turnovers. It's definitely the problem is defense. I mean, it's just defense.
And our players know it. They know that's the case. And a lot of these stats look good. They really do. We have more assists than turnovers. Our opponents have more turnovers than assists. There's just a lot of things that we're doing correctly, but we're just really struggling to get people stopped. We don't have great size. Losing Jalen at the guard position, we talked about that before, how that hurts us. And so our size is a factor, I think, in people being able to shoot the ball over the top of us and score inside.
Teams are shooting. You look at the shooting percentage, obviously 46% opponent's field goal percentage and the three-point percentage at over 42%. It's obviously something that you say the team continues to need to work on and get much better.
It does, and it's frustrating because as you know, we spent a lot of time working on defense, but we do have some limitations. But again, as a coaching staff, there's some things that we have to do, and we have to recognize and maybe make some adjustments during games, which I think we didn't do a very good job of in the Kent State game, particularly there at the end when they ran the same play over and over. There should have been some adjustments we made as coaches, and so it's not always on the players.
Some of the guards that the Raiders have faced this year, really talented. We saw another one in Jalen Walker, who was suspended the first 5 games for Kent State. 6'3", they have good size. They can both penetrate. They can also shoot the ball outside of the arc. There's some tough players we faced this year.
Well, I mean, we're going to face tough players all year. We just are, and our league has a bunch of good guards. I think our league is a lot better this year than it was last year, and so I think that the schedule we're playing is certainly getting us ready for that. But my concern is just our players' confidence level at this point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because that's as a coach, you make your schedule well ahead of time, and you have to decide, okay, are we going to challenge our guys with a really difficult schedule, or are we going to play a schedule that we can win some games and get some momentum going into the season? It's a tough call to make.
It is, and I think there's some balance to it. Challenging your kids, but also not wearing them out. And again, had I known that we'd not have Jalen, we probably would have put a little bit different schedule together. But I still think that this gets us ready. We had a good talk with our players today. We had a good practice today. I don't think anybody's moping around or feeling sorry for themselves, and so I think we're in a pretty good spot still.
Plus, the thing that you're getting great minutes out of Allen Vest, a senior. I mean, he just he hit 4 threes on Saturday. Just the energy he plays with, the hustle he plays with. That's just got to wear off on some of your younger players.
Well, I mean, honestly, when you look at the film, he's our best player right now. Mm-hmm. The way that he's playing, the way he's shooting the ball, he's not trying to do things he can't do, and he's doing the things he can do very well.
When teams get in situations like this, whatever sport it might be, guys are trying to do more than they're capable of. And you bring up the point about Allen, who does what he knows he's capable of doing. You look at the stat sheet, not only he hit the threes the other day, but jumps out to me. He's got 13 steals. He's tied for the team lead with Cole Gentry, who's played a lot more minutes than he has.
Yeah, I mean, Allen's a great defender. And just because a guy steals a ball doesn't mean he's a good defender. He could be gambling, but Allen does a great job of staying in front of his guy. He does a great job of help defense. He just has been really a good defender. And if you watch the tape, you can just tell that he cares. And that's half a defense is just caring and putting your heart into it, and Allen definitely does that.
And you look for leadership, and you see a senior who hasn't played a lot, but he's taking on some leadership role right now.
Well, he's getting to play a lot now. He obviously got to start, which I think he deserves, and he's going to continue to play a lot for us.
Yeah, I thought Loudon Love may have played his best offensive game on Saturday. I mean, some of the baskets he made were very, very difficult, but he stuck with it. A couple of times I remember he went up, got his shot blocked, and then stuck with it, got the rebound, put it back in. He made some big baskets in the second half.
Yeah, and I think we saw, we started to see some of his personality come out in that game. Unfortunately, I think it was one of his worst defensive games. And so, that's really where we need him to excel. I do believe this about Loudon, that if he puts his mind to it, he could maybe be the defensive player of the year in the league. He's a great shot blocker. He's quick. He's hard to back down. But he gave up too many easy catches the other night. And those are things we talked about, we've already looked at. He knows those things, and he'll do better.
He's averaging 30 minutes a game. Is there a number that you would like to see him anywhere between 25, 28 minutes a game? Or does it matter?
I think he can do 30. He can do 30, particularly at the pace we're playing. It's not like we're flying up and down the floor at this point, and so I think that he can play 30, and I think he can play 30 very well.
All right, after the loss to Kent State, before that, actually, Wright State took on Miami at home, and that was a game where you were behind. It made a great comeback, tied it up with 6.3 seconds left. We have some highlights for those here at the Flyboys in Beaver Creek. Check the monitor up behind us and check out the highlights from Miami, Coach. Talk about them.
Well, Cole's shooting the ball great this year, and we struggled there a little bit early, and then he got us going. And then obviously Loudon in the first half struggled, but again, again our struggles have all seems like most of them have come in the first half, and we played a lot better in the second half. There you have Allen hitting another three, shooting almost 50% from three. They double-teamed Loudon quite a bit in the post, and so he was able to make some very good passes. The skip passes were there for us in that game for sure.
He's done a really good job, I think, of finding your shooters. He made a couple passes up at Kent to Allen.
He has. I still would like him to cut his turnovers down. I'd rather him shoot the ball than pass, to be honest with you. I would just like to see him do that. I tell you, the guy I'm probably most proud of in that game was Skyler.
Amazing.
coming back from home and all the things that he'd been through. He was definitely our best player in this game. He was on the glass very well. Made some great defensive plays, but was very, very, very aggressive offensively.
Well, even when he, you talked about the fact he didn't get up to Kent until on Saturday morning. Had not missed, hadn't had any practice time at all. First time he touched the ball, he nailed a three.
Yeah. I think he was going a little bit on adrenaline. He's a little bit low right now, which is understandable.
See Loudon Love right there with another tough basket. Bam Bowman in this game, I thought was the MVP for Miami. It was a good test for Loudon.
It was, and I think Bam got the best of him for sure. I know that Loudon wasn't very happy about it, but we'll have to wait till next year to do something about it. There's another three from Skyler. I mean, he just played very well and played with a lot of emotion for our team.
We've seen a lot of minutes from Skyler, and I'm sure as the season goes on, we'll see even more.
Yeah, and he's our second leading rebounder coming off the bench.
Incredible shot right there by Wamper to tie the game with, 6 seconds to go. That's what makes it so tough, Coach, is he makes a big shot like that, and then, they go down and hit an equally tough shot to win the game.
Well, you hopefully don't put your team in that situation. Yeah. And like you and I have talked about, Coach, our last 4 losses, we've had the lead in the second half. Yeah. And it's gone down to the last minute where we've either been ahead, the score's been tied, or we've been behind by a bucket. And we've not been able to win any of those games. And it's a little bit unusual, particularly with the kind of experience that we have, that we would lose all 4 of those games. But that's kind of where we are right now. And I think the guys are struggling with their confidence a little bit, so that's what we have to spend a little bit of time talking about.
We're at Flyboys in Beaver Creek. We'll be back with more of the Scott Nagy Show. It's Wright State basketball. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages.
Come celebrate Wright State's 20th Arts Gala on April 13th. Enjoy an incredible evening of performances by our talented art students, plus fine dining and auction items too. All proceeds support arts scholarships. That's Arts Gala on April 13th.
And welcome back along with Hall of Fame coach Jim Brown. We are talking with Scott Nagy, head coach in his 3rd season here at Wright State. Do it just about every Monday. We'll be back with you after the first of the year, as the Raiders will be into the league season by that time. But up next is Northwestern Ohio. The game will be played. It's an NAI school at the Wright State Nutter Center, a 7 o'clock tip-off this Thursday. It's finals week, Coach. That's so important for these guys coming off a mentally draining week. They've got to, hit the books this week, get their finals in. You'll have the game on Thursday, then some off time before you come back home a week from tomorrow against Morehead State. Yeah,
usually finals week is a very draining week. The practices aren't very good. The players obviously spend a lot of time studying and writing papers and doing things like that, and so it is a bit of a draining week, and I'm not crazy about playing a game during that week, but sometimes you just don't, we don't have any options in terms of when we can find our home games. And so we do have this game this Thursday, and I don't know anything about the opponent yet. I'm still focused. I'm still focused on our guys, and Coach Sargent's working on the opponent.
Well, you talk about, your guys. You touched on it briefly just a few moments ago. You said, helping maintain some confidence and building some confidence. Is it more or less something that you talk with them more about, or just continue to work on different things to make them better?
A little bit of both. There's a little bit of psychology involved, a little bit of counseling involved, and then, there's some responsibility on the players' part, too, to get in the gym and shoot and work on some things extra. And then, it's our job to make adjustments and try to get better. And, today was an all defensive day, and I thought our energy was very good today. I was really pleased with the players and how they responded.
You get together with your coaches. You talked with Coach Brown at the end of the tough loss at Kent State about, we got to figure this thing out, maybe try to do some things different. When you sit down and you talk, do you look at the video, you guys just share ideas and you come to a consensus on what you're going to do?
Sometimes, and then there's other times where I'm the head coach and I have to make those decisions. Like we talked with the players today, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. Sometimes I think our players think that, but my experience tells me, and I've had some teams that have struggled defensively early in the year, and then they've turned the corner and they've become great defensive teams. And so I'm not willing to give up on these guys, and we're going to continue to battle and work on the fundamentals and work hard on defense. And I think this team will be a really good defensive team before we're done. And so I think the stretch that we're going through here, we're obviously playing very good teams. They're putting a lot of pressure on us. I think it's going to make us grow. And, when things don't go well, there's two things that happen. You either fracture or you grow. And so we need to help our guys grow.
Well, you look at last year, it started out the season, lost 3 straight games at one point, but then really got it together. It kicked into gear. And these guys can't not forget that. Because you said you played a tough schedule, get yourself prepared. The league season, that's when things turn around again. And you look at the league so far this year, it's really hard to tell, but there are some teams that are going to compete more, maybe some of the others, but you got to be ready and win your home games.
Yeah, and I think it is hard to tell because everybody plays really a different level schedule. Some of our teams have played tough schedules. Some teams have played very easy schedules. And so looking at the records, I don't even pay attention to it, to be honest, and I really don't even look at people's stats. I don't pay attention to it because it'll all change once we start playing league play.
You know, I looked at this today, Coach, and, you know, we've had some difficult time on the road, but there's 10 teams in our league. 6 of them haven't won a road game, have not won a road game. 3 of them have won 1 road game, and I think it's Northern Kentucky has won a couple. I mean, I have my own reasons as to why I think it's difficult to play on the road, but what do you think separates when you go on the road as to why is it so difficult to win a road game? I heard this quote the other day: the 2 best days in a coach's life are the birth of a child and a road win.
Yeah. The road wins
Not
are
in that
great.
order, I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what order, but there's a lot of truth to that because anybody
but I
that's
also
coached,
think you have to look at their schedule and see who they're playing on the road. I mean, very rarely are we playing dogs on the road. I mean, we're at our level, at this mid-major level, the teams that we have to play on the road and go play are all good teams.
Yes.
You look at every game that we've played away from home, it's the toughest road schedule, like I've said before, that I've ever been involved with. And so, you know, we've been in all of those games
Absolutely.
but 2. We've been in all of them but 2, and so our players, I'll tell you the one thing about our kids, they are playing hard.
Yeah.
We have a couple players that need to get a little bit better defensively that I think are not maximizing their potential, but I think most of our guys are.
Well, I'll tell you, I was, as a spectator, a broadcaster, former coach, I was really encouraged by how they played on Saturday. I wish the heck they would have won the game. I think it would have done wonders for them, but the heart that they played with, and the adversity that they overcome on more than one occasion, and then to play like that after what they went through that week, I just can't imagine.
I'm not concerned about it. It'll flip.
Yeah.
And I told the players today, I mean, in my sane moments, which are very few, but I do have some, I have to realize that the most important thing are not wins and losses. They're just not. You know, it's helping our guys grow. It's helping them become not only better players, but better men. And I think one of those things in terms of them being better men is learn how to care for each other and learn how to put everything on the line for each other. And I think that our guys are doing that. And so what am I going to do, be mad at them all the time? I mean, that's just not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to help them grow, and I think that they're doing that.
And you do that. I noticed in the hotel at Kent State, the guys got together, you know, as a group. They were sitting there together. I just walked by. I said, you know what? They need that time together, just that unit themselves, to be able to work out what they need to work out to continue to move on. So they know that they're all in. And it appears so up at Kent State. They just play their hearts out.
Yeah, and I think they are. Like, I don't feel like there's a player that we have that have to worry about or struggling with his attitude. I think that they're all in. They all want to do very well for each other, and that's really, as a coach, that's all I can ask for. And then it's our job to help them get prepared and make the adjustments.
You know, Coach, got a few minutes left. I saw something today that Mark Few, the head coach at Gonzaga, they lost to Tennessee. You know, and it's going to happen. You know, there's rankings. I don't put a lot of, you know,
On a fadeaway, on a fadeaway three-pointer at the buzzer, no less.
Yeah, but it was on the road.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
come on. There's probably not going to be one team, I don't care how good they are, going to go into Tennessee and beat them this year.
But Mark Few had a comment about there needs to be better leadership, and he basically mentioned Mark Emmert in regard to the investigation regarding those schools with the pay for play and whatever. He says something needs to be done and be done now. Quit putting it off. You have any comments about that?
A lot of them, right, Coach?
Yeah, I don't
You just
know.
don't
Some
wanna-
I might get myself in trouble, but I guess I would agree with that. You know, it would be nice if everybody was doing things the way they're supposed to be doing them, but that you know, is clearly not the case, and I think we've seen that from the FBI investigation, and it's still going on. I don't exactly know what the NCAA knows and what the FBI has let them know. But it would be nice. I think they know enough to know that some of the schools were not doing things the way they should be, but we really haven't seen much of a crackdown.
Yeah, Coach Few's point was, listen, you know, make a decision. Let's move on. For those who might be punished or whatever, they're just going to have to deal with it. You just can't keep putting it off like that.
Well, it's, you know, I spend no time thinking about it. He has to worry more about that than I do. He competes against some of those people that do that, and I'm not sure that we do. I don't spend any time worrying about it. I really don't. We just do things the way we're supposed to do it, and I believe that we'll win most of our games because of that.
All right, Coach, we've run out of time. We got Katrina Merriweather up next. Going to be talking about Wright State women's basketball. When we come back on the Scott Nagy Show, stay with us. Good house here tonight at Fly Boys in Beaver Creek.
What does it mean to be a pioneer, reaching your full potential? It means being bold, no, bigger than bold, monumental. Having no fear in the face of adversity, essential. They doubt us, inconsequential. Where would we be if we cease at the first "you can't do that"? You see, we set out to be what we see in you. Innovators, free thinkers, seekers of truth. At Wright State, our goal remains central. We are the pioneers of potential.
And welcome back to Flyboys in Beaver Creek. It's the Scott Nagy Show, and we're going to bring in Katrina Merriweather, the women's coach. Now, see, originally when we scheduled all the shows, just so you folks know, we normally have the women's show on from 5:30 until 6, but since they were in New York over the weekend, well, we thought, well, we have to give them a little pad because we didn't want to schedule that in advance because you never know about delays this time of year, weather, whites, and whatever. But they've made it back, obviously. Coach Merriweather is with us right now. This team has won 6 consecutive games. They just won the Manhattan tournament. More hardware, won a tournament in Nashville earlier this year. You know, Coach, when I saw you just before the shows got underway tonight, you're saying, but we still have a whole lot to work on.
We do. I mean, we have to remember that in the beginning of the year we were 1-3. So we've turned the corner a little bit. We're playing a little harder, rebounding a little better, but there's still a long way to go. We got a very competitive league in front of us.
Well, your team won, and that's the main thing. You want to get victories, but you want to get better because the league once the league season starts, you're going to see some really good teams this year.
Absolutely. We're going to open up at IUPUI, who has picked one spot ahead of us in second, and they're playing well. They've beaten Ole Miss. They played some really, really tough competition, too, so they'll be ready and prepared, and we're looking forward to the competition, but there's going to be a lot of it.
Is this a season where somebody can finally get Green Bay in your league? I mean, Green Bay is pretty much dominated the Horizon League on the women's side for several years, and I noticed, I looked at their record the other day, it's like 4-4, so they've come back to earth, so to speak. But how do you feel? You have a couple more games before you start your conference, but what do you see in the conference in terms of the top 2 or 3 teams? Is it still Green Bay or?
Oh, definitely. Again, it's us, it's IUPUI, it's Green Bay.
Green Bay, yeah.
And again, I think that you got to always take a look at their schedule. Like they played DePaul, they played Wisconsin.
They beat Wisconsin, yeah.
They play a very, very tough schedule. As much as I complain about not being able to get games, they have an even tougher time getting games. So they play a lot of BCS competition in the preseason. I'll tell you, the year we beat them in the tournament in 2014, they had their worst team and we had our best one. And I do think that we're really talented and we got a chance to be pretty good. And it's all of those games should be competitive.
You talked about things that your team still needs to work on. What are some of the things that you'd like to see improved with your squad?
We're really inconsistent rebounding the basketball. And I think that any coach can tell you that that's just downright frustrating because it's effort, it's hard. There's some skill and discipline that comes along with it. And I think sometimes we get a little lax. And we just haven't put together a full 40 minutes just yet. So kind of looking forward to that happening. Individually,
a lot of people are contributing. Mikhail Miller was the MVP of the Manhattan tournament. Mackenzie Taylor scored her 1,000th point. That was great to see. I saw a little video you guys put on Twitter about that. This team is really close, really together. They were so happy for her, obviously. And they were really excited. It's funny, during the game, I had some of the reserve players in, and Emily goes, I want to be in when she scores 1,000 point. I think they were all fighting over who was going to pass her the ball. But again, I think that speaks volumes for their relationship. Mikhail Miller's definitely coming on. She plays about 20 to 25 minutes a game. So the good thing about her is she's very dependable, reliable offensive player that's going to play between 20 and 25 minutes, and that's it. And I think she gets shots up really quick because she knows we rely on her to have some scoring. And it would be remiss to not talk about Simone Simmons, who's averaging a double-double over the last few games. She's just doing a phenomenal job. And again, this kid is possibly going to have 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. And I think that is something that she's really passionate about achieving, and that's helping us also. Well, you talk about this team and what you expect from them. Obviously, your expectations, much higher because you feel that they can do, even better. And you look at this tournament with Manhattan, you went into it, you had to play a good Drexel team that at the time only had, one loss at that time? Yes, in the top 25 mid-major poll, they're ranked 7th, I believe. So it was a really good win for us. Last week we were 18th. So, of course, we expect to move up a little bit with that win. But more importantly, I think it just, like Coach Nagy talks about, it just gives your kids some confidence. Right. Because, of course, at 1-3, we weren't feeling all that hot. So I think that this helps them a lot. Coach Brown, see a few of your games this year.
I have, but I'm afraid to go back, Katrina, because the one I went to, you got beat. And
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
yeah, I wanted to ask you about Tyler Ferguson. I had the young lady in class last year. She's from Los Angeles, and I think she's so far away from home, and she doesn't have this, the family support right here like a lot of your players do. How has she improved? I know, as a freshman she played some. She didn't start as a freshman, did she? I mean,
No.
No. But I know you're happy with her play because I've heard you talk about her. But what kind of improvement have you seen from her?
I mean, it's been great for her to feel needed. I think when you play behind Lexi Smith, and I am known for just playing who I'm comfortable with, and it's a lot of trust there with Lexi because she was a 4-year senior. And I think that Tyler comes out in California, she has amazing set of games.
Yeah.
And then she comes back and like we're all experiencing, she's a little banged up. She can't straighten her knee all the way. She's kind of playing, not feeling all that hot. Emily's playing, not feeling all that hot. And I think that what we really want is for everybody to get on the same page, be healthy, and get after it. But Tyler's still giving us 12 points in 15 minutes. She's really, really efficient. So I'm just happy that she stepped up because we would have a big hole if she didn't.
I've always felt like to a championship team, to be a championship team, you have to have good guards. And if you have a good center, that's great, but you have to have good guards, and you've got good guards. Emily and Mackenzie, they can play.
They can. And we were really fortunate to have the two of them, obviously, as seniors, because their leadership for the Angel Bakers, for the Mikkel Millers, for the Deja Evans, who's actually starting to get some more minutes after being out for a few games. Their leadership is really, really important, and they're leading this guard group really well.
Coach Merriweather, it's the city that never sleeps, New York City. I know you told me that was your first visit to the city, and for many on the team, but hold that thought. Got a story about what happened to your team during that visit to Manhattan when we come back. Fly Boys, that's what we are here in Beaver Creek. We're talking with Katrina Merriweather, the head women's coach at Wright State University. We'll have more when we return. And welcome back along with Hall of Fame coach Jim Brown. We're talking to Katrina Merriweather, head women's coach here at Wright State University. And coming up in a few minutes, the associate head coach on the men's side, Ryan Cooley, will be joining us. The remainder of the time, we're here till 7 o'clock. Just want to tell everybody in the area, Bridges of Hope, nonprofit group here in Greene County, a great fundraiser for them. It's the giving time of year. Folks, please help them out. Check it out online, too. If you're in the area, stop by. They got brochures, all kinds of information. Again, that's Bridges of Hope, offering things for people here in the Greene County area who are as less fortunate as you are. And Coach Merriweather, before we went to break, we talked about a little incident involving your team in New York. Tell us what happened on the way to the game against Manhattan on the elevator.
Well, we were in warm-ups, and about 32 minutes into warm-ups, they come to the locker room. And in Manhattan's gym, it's on the first floor, and our locker room is on the third. And our kids are not used to walking upstairs to get to a locker room, so they decided they'd get on the elevator. So all 10 of them get on the elevator and to get stuck. And they get stuck on there for 12 or 13 game minutes, so during the warm-up time. And the first few minutes, we're laughing, of course, and we're like, and me, I'm the one making the most jokes because I'm kind of like, that's what you get for not walking up the stairs. And so I'm like, hey, there's limited air in there. You better stop talking. And then all of a sudden, you hear them go. It's dead silent. But that was for the first 5 minutes. A couple minutes after that, I was like, okay, we need to get them out.
So how long were they stuck up there?
It was about 12 or 13 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and we had a couple. I mean, they were drenched. It was because it's a very small elevator. So yeah, and we started off a little sluggish too, but whatever. A little adversity never hurt anybody. But it was funny to us because we weren't on the elevator, and they were okay afterwards.
So a big story from the big city, the Big Apple. There was the first time I found out that you've ever been to New York, and I would imagine for a lot of those on the team and some of the coaches, maybe their first time there.
I talk about it all the time, how fortunate we are that I'm able to have control over our schedule, that the administration is so supportive and allows us to take these trips and do these things. We went up to New York a day early, and while we were there, we went to the 9/11 Museum. A lot of these kids were so young. They were 2 or 3 years old when 9/11 happened. And I don't know if anybody's ever been there, but it's a very, very huge and overwhelming museum. There are a lot of emotions. They didn't quite understand, what happened.
Right.
And we talked quite a bit about it afterwards, too. And we mixed that, obviously, with going down to Times Square so they could see some lights in the Rockefeller Center. But I just think it was an amazing experience for them, and it was for me, too. Of all the places in New York I've been, I've never been to New York City. So, of course, we had cheesecake. We had hot chocolate. We did all the touristy stuff while we were there.
Coach Brown coached for a long time. He's taken his team to many places. And, Coach, you can relate to what she said, having the opportunity for these kids and their experience.
Well, absolutely. The first time I went to New York City, it was on a recruiting trip, and Coach Underhill went with me, and we went across all 5 bridges. We were in all 5 boroughs, and neither one of us had ever been there. Mm-hmm. And I can remember trying to find a parking place in downtown Manhattan, and I'm looking, it was like $35 for a half hour. And I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to get $35 back from the university? They're never going to believe this. But anyway, we played Pace University up there. This is a true story. We took the subway to the gate. That was a mistake. That was a mistake.
Yeah, that's not. I wouldn't. I'm too scary for that.
Well, we were on a limited budget at that time.
Well, I'm very appreciative that we don't have to get on the subway to go to games. But I will say it was a great experience for them, and again for all of us too. Yeah. And I think it was really awesome. We did get to see the Statue of Liberty from where we were, and it's just there's so much history there, so much culture there.
It's a unique city. It's really a unique city. It never, like Chris said, it never sleeps. There's people out doing something at all hours of the night.
You were talking about all the security you see around there now.
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, you see it on TV. Have people in full police gear with these huge shotguns and these vests, and you're like, ooh, okay, we just were getting hot chocolate. But then you realize all the things that have happened there. Yeah, you understand what the urgency is and what all the security is about. And again, I think it's good for our kids to see the type of environment that we have here. And we don't have traffic, that it's a very comfortable environment where you can leave your door unlocked or you don't have to worry about this, that, and the other, and that other people live different ways. So I think it was good for them.
Great experience, obviously, as you talked about for your team. And that helps, with recruiting. You get to go to these places, and you're very thankful, like you said, you're appreciative of that. You've been to New York, you've been to Nashville, you've been to Los Angeles, you've been to Las Vegas already this year. So, that's got to really help when you go out there and you tell a kid and try to sell them in Wright State.
Well, it does. And, of course, we have someone on our team now from California. We're recruiting a kid out of Texas right now. So the fact that they know that we'll go back home, where they can play in front of their friends and family, that we're also going to do our best to show them some neat experiences as well. And so you're right. It definitely helps in recruiting. And more importantly, that once you get the kid, that you're going to take care of them and do some really cool stuff with them.
We talked with Coach Nagy about this with the holidays coming up, the schedule. Kentucky State on Thursday. It's an 11 a.m. game at Wright State's Nutter Center. Then you'll be off for a while. You'll play again next Tuesday as you hit the road to go to Charlotte.
Yeah, and again, we're hoping that we take care of business. And like Coach Nagy said, playing during finals week is not really ideal, but to not play a game for a couple of weeks isn't either. So again, we get permission to have those games during finals week, and we try to make them as smooth as possible. And I think that if we come out ready to play, we should be okay.
All right, Coach, best of luck. Congratulations on the win at Manhattan. And we'll be talking with you in a few weeks.
Appreciate it.
All right, stay with us. Come back. We're going to have Brian Cooley, the associate head coach for Wright State men's basketball. When we come back, the Fly Boys in Beaver Creek.
Join us as we celebrate Wright State's 20th Arts Gala on April 13th. Enjoy an incredible evening of performances by our talented students in art, music, theater, dance, and motion pictures, plus fine dining and auction items too. All proceeds support arts scholarships to help our students succeed. That's Arts Gala on April 13th. For tickets, call or click.
Thank Steve, of course, with Flyboys here in Beaver Creek. He's just been tremendous thus far this season. And Bridges of Hope, they're out here right now getting out information about this nonprofit group which helps people here in Greene County. And with us right now, as promised, sitting directly to my right and on the left of Coach Brown as you watch it on the stream, and out there in the crowd is Brian Cooley, as the associate head coach for the Wright State men's team. And Coach Cooley, great to have you here. I mean,
thanks for having me.
It's rare that you're even around because you're always on the road.
Yeah, well, it's been a busy November, December, which is pretty typical for this time of year.
Not only with the team, but you're on the road too because priority one, it's recruiting.
Yep. Yeah, this time of year, it's always a fine balance between looking for the future and looking for just the current team, but you got to do both.
All right, let's do a little refresher course for the folks who maybe not with us last year when you were on the show. Talk about your background, how you got here to Wright State, and you got with Coach Nagy.
Well, I became a graduate assistant in 2008 for Coach Nagy, and he's kind of been stuck with me since. When I was done being a GA, I got on as assistant coach, and I've been kind of with him since. So it's been a long time.
Long time.
I think he gets sick of me every once in a while, but hopefully not too much.
Well, he gives you a lot of responsibility. You know, I've been to practices. You kind of run a certain segment of practice,
Yeah.
and that's great experience. I mean, you know, I think too many assistant coaches, they play for head coaches that all they let them do is recruit.
Yeah.
And so when they finally get their opportunity because they've been an assistant coach and they've made some connections, they don't understand the things you have to do in practice, the things you got to do out of practice, and Coach Nagy allows you to do that, I can tell.
Yeah, Coach has been tremendous to work for. All of us assistants, he gives all of us a lot of responsibilities, and not just, like you said, one responsibility. We get our hands in a lot of different responsibilities, and you know, we can disagree with him, we can agree with him. Right. He's open to new suggestions, so it's good.
You know, right now, trying to figure out some things, as he talked about. You know, last year, you know, got off to a slow start, but we saw what happened throughout the season. Now this year, that's right. Every year, there's something different that comes up. You know, talk about the situation, you know, with you, the assistants, you guys get together and try to figure things out.
Yeah, every year I've coached, you go through the ups and downs of the season. No matter how, you know, smooth you think the fans, the coaches, the players think the season's going to be, there's always bumps in the road. There's always ups and downs. It's more how you handle those situations,
Absolutely.
Or what makes a team, what makes or breaks a team. And we played a tough schedule. We're very, very close, which I'm sure Coach talked about. But there's plays out there here and there, particularly at the end of games where we have the ability to make, and we will start making. Confident in that.
The responsibility is so big, not only from getting the team ready, getting them prepared, but also, you know, mentally. That's something that they have to do to get themselves ready for a game. But you know what happened last week? How do you prepare for something like that? But it tells me, again, the family atmosphere here at Wright State, of course, Coach Nagy, that permeates through his staff. And, you know, I know he doesn't like to talk about it, but Coach Sargent going back and forth, you know, and helping out, you know, Skylar Potter and driving back and forth like that. And that says a lot about him and the commitment made by the coaches to these players.
Yep. Skylar, obviously, and the entire family had a really difficult week. And, you know, we think the world of Skylar. We're very, very happy he's part of our program, and it's just crazy how difficult a week he had in the two games he played. He played pretty darn good for not practicing at all.
I thought he played great. I mean, if you think about it for a second, I mean, I would have been wore out doing what you guys did. I mean, you played a game on Wednesday night, a heartbreaking loss. Then you got on a bus and went all the way to Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is like a 5-hour drive. You went to the wake. You got back at 11:30 at night, right? And then Thursday or Friday, you had a short practice, got on another bus, went all the way up to Kent State and tried to play a game. I mean, it's just, you know, people, it kind of is sort of like what it's like in the NBA, I guess, where you go from one city to another city, your sleep gets disrupted. That's why I was so impressed with how they played. I mean, it kills me that they got beat because they deserved to win when they played that well.
And Skylar, you know, he did his scouting reports literally 2 hours before the game because that's how close to game time he got in. For the Kent State game in Miami, it was the same way. And you know, he's so dang talented naturally that I think he had like a bag of chips and a Sprite, and he was good to go.
And he was ready to go. But you know, we've talked about some of the other players on this team also, and you know, and when you do recruit a kid, you know, I mean, you spend so much time, you know, with their families. You get a sign, they come here, you make an investment in them, you know. So I can see why there's such a connection.
Yeah, and that's, you know, part of the recruiting commitment is just to the family, to their future, to the present, everything. And so, you know, when we recruit a kid, we also recruit their family too, whether the mom, dad, high school coach, friends, aunts, uncles, whatever it may be, because that's obviously where, you know, a big part of where they came from. So that's important to us.
You know, we talked about this real quick, and that's Alan Vest. And, you know, what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of injuries, hasn't played a whole lot, never complained. A lot of fans know that. Look what he has done right now. He's really contributing to this team.
So proud of Alan Vest. Like, for 3 years, like, I mean, there wasn't a better teammate, practice guy, locker room guy. Whether he played 2 minutes, 22 minutes, anything in between, he was always the same at Alan Vest after a win, after a loss. Great teammates, and I know, you know, it's crazy because for 6 months or so he couldn't work out really because of his hip injury. So it's not like he was able to put a ton of time in the gym, but he's just out of all the guys, like, nobody loves Wright State basketball more than Alan Vest. And every time he plays, the loose balls he gets, how hard he plays. He was tremendous on Saturday, the 32 minutes, I think 16 points. But more than the scoring, we always tell Alan, like, you know, scoring's icing on the cake for you because you're going to give the hustle plays, just the defense intensity, the loose balls, all those 50-50 balls that we, you know, value as a program. He gives that to us consistently.
Yeah, and he's come through when you've absolutely had to have him. I mean, because you didn't know what you were going to get from Skylar because of his situation, and Parker's he's kind of having difficulty right now rebounding and scoring. So you got a huge lift from Allen. I mean, listen, I know Friday night you went to watch one of our recruits play, right?
Yes.
Give us a report on that. Who did you go see? And
Saw Andre Harris from Brush High School. They won by about 55. So
in Chicago, right?
No,
Cleveland.
Cleveland area.
Okay. All right.
So it wasn't a great game to watch, but he played really well. The team is a very, very good team. I think they're ranked top 3 or 4 in the Cleveland area.
Okay.
But he's a good kid, very athletic, long, just naturally good basketball player. Has a great way about him, great vibe about him. So we're excited to get him here in June, be here before you know it.
You know, I have to tell you this. I'm going to be very honest here. When you guys came to Wright State, one of my concerns as a former coach and a player was the fact that you didn't know anybody. You coaches were all from South Dakota. You didn't know any. Coach Nagy had been there for 22 years or whatever. You had been with him. Clint played up there. You guys were from all over. The only one that had any familiarity a little bit was Sharif, but he was in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, these guys don't know anybody here. Recruiting is so connected in terms of contacts you have. You've done a phenomenal job,
I
I
appreciate
think.
that. Well, you know, the farthest we recruited east at South Dakota State was Illinois.
Yes.
And so it actually took us a little while to just get our bearings because there's just so many recruits here.
But you got a kid from Cleveland. You got a kid from Wheelersburg, Ohio.
Yeah.
You've got over by St. Louis.
Yeah.
I think we have a pretty good feel for what we want as a in a recruit, both on the floor, in the locker room, what kind of teammate you are, and then on the floor stuff too. So I think, you know, we've been together so long, and we kind of know what Coach Nagy wants and likes, and he knows that too. So it honestly took us maybe, you know, six months to a year and a half to get everything organized because it's so overwhelming. Because in South Dakota, if we had
only
one,
like 6 schools.
if we had one kid in a year, we knew about every high school player there was.
Yeah.
Well, you just talked about the recruit from Cleveland. What about the other 3 coming in? We talked with Coach Nagy briefly about them last week. Got a pretty good crop coming in next year.
Yeah, very, very excited about all 4 of them. Trey Calvin from St. Viator in Chicago they're out of all of Illinois, they're in 3A, but I think they're ranked 3rd in 3A, which is very, very good. Chicago basketball. Noah Friedel from T South Dakota just had their first game. He scored 25 on Saturday night.
He's up for Player of the Year in the state too, right? I mean, I saw a poll the other day where he got all the votes for Player of the Year in the state already.
He's a good player. They'll have a chance to win states. And then Tanner, you know, we saw Tanner playing football. Tanner has that edge to him. We went to a playoff game in football, and he's very aggressive and hungry, and just has a good way about him too. So.
He's from the same area former Raider is from.
Yes.
Drew Burleson.
Yep.
Dr. Drew Burleson.
Yep. And he talked to Tanner about Wright State and everything that Wright State had to offer, so it was nice to make that connection.
Now, Coach Cooley, you know, we got a few more minutes left, but I know you're really into the analytics. We know analytics in baseball, but it also applies, you know, in basketball. You know, Coach Brown keeps the possession chart each game, and he does a superlative job. I don't think he misses one possession.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Coach Brown doesn't miss much.
when he
Pretty
when
sharp.
he told Coach Nagy at the end of the game, you know, they scored on their last 9. Coach Nagy's eyes just
Oh,
popped
he
up.
came in
couldn't believe
after
it.
the game too. Wasn't happy about that, so we were wondering who told him that.
But talk about some of the new stats that you're seeing now, and you know how teams go about getting those, how they apply, and does it really work?
Yeah, I think a lot of the kind of the old school stats, like we see in the box score in front of us, just the raw numbers. Some of that is good. You know, that's always going to have a place in the game. But there's more stuff that has what they call tempo-free statistics, where you know, based on the number of possessions there are, you can tell. For instance, if a team shoots, you know, 50%, but you turn them over 25 times, you look at the giving up 50%. That's not good, but you turn them over 25 times, so. Yeah, ultimately, the 2 most important stats are the points per possession. So in that circumstance, that would be good defensively, although you gave up 50%.
What's a good number for that? The points per possession?
Under 1. Our goal is under 1.
Okay.
Yeah, under 1. Give up under 1 defensively, then over 1 offensively. Last year, you know, we kind of flipped it here from last year. Last year, we were very, very good defensively, under 1, pretty consistently, but we struggled offensively. And this year, we kind of flipped where we've been over 1. Defensively and then over 1 offensively as well.
When you play 30, maybe 31, 32 games through a year, you can probably see some trends when you use numbers like that.
Yeah, you can. It's a better indicator of how we are doing offense and defense. Those are some of the stats we keep on the bench. Like Nick Nagy keeps the points and the possessions, so we can kind of get an idea of how we're doing. And then when we scout teams, we can also use some of those things there too.
And that goes into the scout, and that's what Coach was talking about, the other responsibilities that you have in addition to recruiting. You know, you have to do the scout on upcoming teams and get the game plan implemented and also disseminate that to your team.
Yeah, and it's, some of these games, like we had, 2 days to prepare for Kent State. And so we watched a ton of game film, but you can only give the players so much. Because you don't want to have the old paralysis by analysis, but you just give them so much where they're, slow-footed and not thinking freely. You only can give them a little bit so they can just play free and play hard and use kind of just our principles.
In a situation, too, with Kent State, you had, was it Jalen Walker? He was suspended for the first 5 games, so you don't really have a good sample size.
We wish it was the first 9 games.
Well, you do, after the way he played the other day. He was outstanding. But we've seen a lot of guards similar. We're going to see those, as Coach Nagy mentioned, in the Horizon League this year. You think of the Penn State, the SMU guards. We also saw with Kent State in Miami. I mean, you've seen
Indiana
some
State,
good
Jordan
guards.
Barnes. We've seen some, this stretch of the last 6-7 games has very much tested us.
Well, I think it's prepared you because I said to Coach Nagy before the show, I don't think there's UIC's got 3 really good guards, but other than that, I mean, you're not going to run into the quality of guards, the big guards that you face. And I think having played against them is going to help us. I mean, like Sabandi was 6'4".
Yeah.
I mean, the guy Saturday was 6'3", and they hit shots. I mean, they hit shots with hands in their faces.
Even go back to like the SMU game, McMurray, just a shot maker. Some of those were just sometimes good offense beats good defense.
Yes.
We do everything we can. They go one-on-one. They make a contested 20-footer. Then at the end of the day, you just kind of tip your cap to them and say, hey, you made it. So, I think all this just playing like the Jordan Barnes and Indiana State, McMurray at SMU can kind of go down on this will help us once we get to, the playing the Marcus Adi and Tarkus Ferguson from UIC, and that'll be here before we know it, so that'll help us.
And also the young man who's a transfer from Vanderbilt at IUPUI has been able to put some big numbers up. Cameron Justice has been playing well for the Jaguars right now. He's a 6'3" guard, but he's not as big in stature. But it'll be interesting to see. We've never seen him before. Yeah,
and IUPUI is probably, from the outsider's point of view, we kind of knew just because the transfer sitting out, but the outsider point of view, they're, somewhat a pleasant surprise for the league. They've had some good wins. They just beat Bradley, I think.
Yep.
Beat Boston College.
Beat Boston College.
College on the road,
And I think the Horizon League, particularly what was the bottom and the middle half, is really up the ante there too. So they'll be, they're good defensively. They got a good core group of juniors and seniors.
It seems like every year, and even more so this year, Coach. I know the music's starting. We got to get out here in about 30 seconds, but this league, you just don't know until you start league play to try to see which team might be dominant.
Yeah, but we're anxious for December 28th to get here, and hopefully we go on a little roll before then.
All right, Coach Cooley, went by fast. Thank you very much. Really
Thanks, Chris.
appreciate it.
it.
Coach Brown, as always,
Coach Brown.
thanks. Raiders in action again coming up on Thursday. It's a 7 o'clock tip, Northwest Ohio and NAIA team at the Nutter Center. Hope to see you out there, then back home again against Morehead State a week from tomorrow. Thanks, folks, for coming out here to Fly Boys in Beaver Creek. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll be back with the Scott Nagy Show again right after the first of the year. Thank you.